Hello, everyone. Welcome to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It's Tuesday, January 12th. Thanks for choosing to be here to get filled in on what's impacting you here in Ohio with the top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Today, we start off with new video that has come from the DC riots. It seems like every day more and more troubling video is coming out from this. You may have already seen the video of a police officer being wedged between two doors while rioters try to push past that police officer. Well, now there is video of a DC police officer being beaten and dragged and beaten with an American flag. He's shown being stomped on and also being smashed with a pole that has the American flag at the end of it. We do have that video on WKYC.com. It is another video, unfortunately, that is very troubling to watch. DC's acting police chief, Robert Conti, said that the images left him sick to his stomach and then the officer was terrified that the rioters were going to try to kill them. It shows the officer being ripped from a line of fellow officers inside the door, and the officers who were with him were unable to help him. The officer has just been released from the hospital and is starting to recover. Conti went on to say that he has had officers who have done 2 tours in Iraq say that the events in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, January 6th that elevated into riots were scarier than their time in combat. In total, 56 D.C. police officers were injured. We know at least 5 people have lost their lives in the D.C. riots. Again, that video, which is difficult to see but important to talk about so that people know the reality of the situation that occurred less than a week ago in Washington, D.C., is on WKYC.com, and you can see it in our WKYC app as well. This morning, President Donald Trump spoke publicly for the first time since the D.C. riots. He is on his way to Texas, or he was on his way to Texas at the time, to survey the border wall in Mexico. He didn't take any questions, but he did blame Democratic congressional leaders for what he calls tremendous anger in the country, and also blamed them for last week's deadly attack on the Capitol by the pro-Trump mob turned rioters before the president urged them on their way toward the Capitol. He took no responsibility for the deadly invasion and did say, though, that he wanted, quote, no violence. He said he believes to impeach him, which would be an historic second time for an impeachment of a sitting president, would result in more violence. NBC's Kristen Welker reported that her sources say either way, President Trump might leave the White House, might leave Washington, D.C. before Joe Biden's inauguration on January 20th, which is now just a week and a day away. Now, as we learn more and more about the impact about what happened in Washington, D.C. last week on Wednesday, January 6th, there is now a third lawmaker who has tested positive for COVID-19. This is one of the people who was in lockdown at the Capitol while the members of Congress were working to certify the Electoral College vote results. Representatives Pramila Jayapal, Brad Schneider, and Bonnie Watson Coleman said they tested positive for COVID-19 after that. Jayapal tweeted this: I just received a positive COVID-19 test result after being locked down in a secured room at the Capitol where several Republicans not only cruelly refused to wear a mask, but recklessly mocked colleagues and staff who offered them one. She went on to say, too many Republicans have refused to take this pandemic and virus seriously, and in doing so, they endanger everyone around them. Adding, only hours after President Trump incited a deadly assault on our Capitol, our country, and our democracy, many Republicans still refused to take the bare minimum COVID-19 precaution and simply wear an expletive mask in a crowded room during a pandemic. Of course, we'll continue to monitor if there are any more positive COVID-19 cases that come out of the members of Congress being in lockdown together for about 4.5 hours on that day while the Capitol was under siege. We do also now know that the border between U.S. and Canada will remain closed through February 21st to non-essential travel. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that today. Now, the Canadian government and the U.S. agreed to the non-essential travel ban back in March, and it's been renewed monthly ever since. So renewed again one more time to at least February 21st at this point. Now let's take a look at the COVID-19 numbers here in Ohio. Today, Over the last 24 hours, the Ohio Department of Health has reported 7,981 new cases of COVID-19. That is up a bit from yesterday. And unfortunately, 100 more Ohioans have lost their lives related to COVID-19 as reported in the last 24 hours. That's also up from yesterday. The latest data that we have, which again is a couple days behind on the positive rates for tests, is the daily rate is at 13.2% of those tests coming back positive for COVID-19, and the 7-day average is slightly below that at 13%. In the last 24 hours, we've seen a big jump in new hospitalizations, 486 new people hospitalized with COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. The total number of people in the hospital right now, however, is down a bit. That number is 4,010, down just a bit from yesterday. And also the number of people in the ICU right now related to COVID is down a bit from yesterday, and that number is now 968. But the number of new ICU admissions is up a bit from yesterday, 49 new ICU admissions in the last 24 hours. And when it comes to the hospital beds in the state of Ohio, 26% of them are open right now for people who need to be treated for anything in an inpatient capacity. Now let's take a look at the national and the global COVID-19 numbers. These numbers come from Johns Hopkins University. The total number of cases that have been reported in the U.S. is now at 22,708,056. And the total number of deaths that have been reported in the U.S. is now at 378,457. Now, from the time we talked about this yesterday, that's 3,708 new reported COVID-19 deaths across the U.S. The U.S. has 4% of the global population, but the percentage of cases and the percentage of deaths continues to rise slightly. Both of these numbers up 0.1 of a percentage point today. The U.S. has 24.9% of the global COVID-19 cases and 19.4% of the global COVID-19 deaths. Those global numbers are 91,266,225 reported COVID-19 cases and 1,953,866 COVID-19 deaths, that number getting very close to 2 million globally. Here in Ohio, the state of Ohio will expedite those extra $300 unemployment payments to hundreds of thousands of Ohioans. We are learning that from the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services. They announced that. Now, the act that is providing those benefits to be extended through March, that was signed on December 27th. So those benefits will extend through March 13th as of right now. Again, President-elect Joe Biden has said that there is more aid coming, but this is where things stand right now. So also, people who were part of the pandemic unemployment assistance will soon be able to start filing weekly claims for benefits again. And the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services says for people whose benefits expired on December 26th, with the exception of the federal state extended benefits program, that will pick off where they left up and people can file benefits retroactive to the week beginning December 27th. Now, as we talk about COVID-19 and the impact that it's having across the country, I'll tell you one thing we did not want to see last night were large crowds in Miami outside after the Alabama victory, despite COVID-19 concerns. The University of Alabama did beat Ohio State last night in the college football playoffs national championship game, 52-24. It was a decisive victory. And then after that, which was the 18th national title for Alabama, crowds spilled into the streets. We have photos and video of this up on WKYC.com. Tuscaloosa, Alabama showed tons of fans just parading through the streets, packed together, shoulder to shoulder, very much ignoring social distancing, and it was not clear how many people in the videos were actually wearing masks. Now, last Friday, in anticipation of this victory, Tuscaloosa Mayor Walt Maddox did ask people to avoid large gatherings and wear face masks during the game, but Alabama fans obviously did not do that if you take a look at the footage from last night. Just so we get a sense of where Alabama is right now when it comes to COVID-19, Alabama has reported more than 404,000 COVID-19 cases as of yesterday, and their positivity rate is currently at 20%. Switching gears now and talking about the Cleveland Browns. Yes, people are still talking about the Cleveland Browns' victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday in the first round of the NFL playoffs, winning the wild card round, advancing to the AFC divisional round. And one person who kept talking about it is Steelers wide receiver Chase Claypool. On a TikTok video, he said, yeah, it was a bad loss, but the Browns are going to get clapped next week, so it's all good. Talking about the Browns going on to play Kansas City Chiefs next week in the AFC divisional round. Well, former Steelers safety Ryan Clark got tagged in a comment talking about that, and he said, I'm so tired of this new breed. What does it matter if they beat you, though? Shut up, man. Those were Ryan Clark's words. Jarvis Landry responded. He quoted that tweet, and he said that part with finger in the air, the number one sign in the air, pointing to the comment, referring to the comment. Also, Cleveland Browns defensive end Adrian Claiborne said, just go on vacation already, young fella, telling him to just enjoy his time off because he won't be playing this week because the Browns beat the Steelers. And Browns linebacker Sione Takitaki also talked about it on the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima on 92.3 The Fan. He said it's really just funny. He's salty with the loss. You can hear it in his voice. He said, as for the Browns, we don't really put too much time about it. Obviously, we got the win, so we got the last laugh. Yes, you did. You did get the last laugh for sure, Cleveland Browns, and we are very happy for that. Speaking of laughs, Seth Meyers is usually a pretty funny guy, and he had some interesting jokes last night on Late Night with Seth Meyers. He is a big Steelers fan, and he had some comments about that 48-37 victory for the Browns over the Steelers. He said, you know what, as Steelers fans, we're just kind of spoiled, and we've had a lot go right for us over the years. But Cleveland fans, on the other hand, have had very little go right for them, and it's not really fair. They're no less passionate, no less deserving to have something nice happen for them. I mean, that's true. We'll give Seth Meyers that. Then he started throwing a little shade about the fact that we all live on Lake Erie and it's probably really cold here right now. So he said if there are two neighbors who live near each other off of Lake Erie, he hopes when they go outside to chat about that playoff wind, that the wind is so cold it feels like their skin is burning and they have to go back inside so they don't get to talk about it. That one, not so nice, Seth Meyers. He also said that he called a friend of his who has a son who's a big Browns fan, and he just wanted to hear someone experiencing joy. He says, I'm happy for Cleveland is the lie I'm going to tell myself today. You keep telling yourself that lie, Seth Meyers, because we are very happy here in Cleveland. And another person who is very happy is Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski, even though he couldn't be at the game because he tested positive for COVID-19. But he was talking about how the Browns are one of 8 teams remaining in the NFL playoffs. And if you're doing the math, if you check VegasInsider.com and you're a betting person, you might notice that the Cleveland Browns odds of winning the Super Bowl are 25-1, and those are the lowest odds of any team remaining in the NFL playoffs. But Stefanski is undeterred by that. Here's what he said. He said, we are one of 8 teams. I am not a math major, but we will take those chances. That is what the guys understand. This is the fun part about the playoffs. Every game gets bigger and bigger, and the challenge gets bigger and bigger. And we are here for it and very excited to see that play out against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday afternoon in the AFC divisional round of the playoffs. That's it for your 3 News Now update for Tuesday, January 12th. I'll be with you at 5 p.m. on What's New with your trending stories in the Clicking in Cleveland segment. And if you didn't know, you can watch that live in our WKYC app. You can watch all of our news broadcasts live right in the WKYC app. Just click on the watch button, and when we are live, it'll pop right up for you. That's it for me for this afternoon. Everyone stay safe and be well, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. I'm Stephanie Haney.